sermon. We are going to wrap up our series, Summer in the Psalms, today. We've been hanging out in the Psalms. The Psalms were compiled and arranged into 5 different books, and each summer we've been spending some time in one of the books, and we have been in book 3. Now, just a reminder, the Psalms are Hebrew poems, songs, and even prayers. So it's kind of like moments of reading the journal entries of God's people, and they were written over the span of nearly 1,000 years, which, when you think about that, that is a long time of the kind of the heart cries of God's people being recorded. And I think part of why the Psalms are so timeless is because art and music and poetry, they sort of have a way of capturing and communicating things that pure commentary or just direct words don't fully capture. Sometimes music and art and poetry, they say something that resonates with our souls. And I think even though the Psalms use imagery and metaphors that are really foreign to us, like I don't think most of us really know what it means to like hold up your horn of salvation or to talk about God as a shield. Like we know what a shield is. We've probably seen it in the movies, but it's not like, oh yeah, a shield. I got one in my garage. I haven't used it in a while, but a shield. I'm very familiar with how those work. And or the cedars of Lebanon. Yeah, I've been there. I've seen those cedars of Lebanon. I don't know what, we don't identify with some of the imagery or metaphors, perhaps, in the Psalms. But when there's expressions of grief, or gratitude, or doubt, or disappointment, or disillusionment, something in our hearts resonates with that. And we find that the human experience, even though we're separated by thousands of years, that their experience is not that much different from our own. And so I think we come to the Psalms and we find that we can see ourselves in the Psalms. And the Psalms display the full range of human emotions. And so in that way, the Psalms teach us to bring all of who we are into God's presence. And they teach us both to praise and to pray. Last week, we looked at Psalm 84, which uses this just beautiful language talking about God's presence. It says, "How lovely is your dwelling place, Lord Almighty. My soul yearns, even faints, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and flesh cry out for the living God. Better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wicked." I want to be honest with you. I don't always feel like that is true. And as a kid, I associated like the courts of God or the house of God or the temple with like church. And I'm like, better is one day in your courts, better is one day in church than 1,000 elsewhere. And like as a kid, I'm like, honestly, I could think of other places I'd like to be. Like, is that bad? But I think it's not really talking just about the courts. It's talking about God's presence. But still, as a kid, I'm like, I don't know if I feel like that's true. And last week, as I was preparing for Psalm 84, I was talking to my wife, and I said, sometimes it is hard to preach about something that you don't always feel, is true in your experience. It feels like inauthentic sometimes. And I was just wrestling with that and wrestling with Psalm 84 and how to share about that. And she said, well, the Psalms don't depict that as the only reality either. Like the Psalms sometimes, there are Psalms that say, God, where are you? Or why is my soul downcast? And the funny thing is I've been saying that almost every week. The Psalms had the full range of human emotion and all this stuff. But it's like when she said it, I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like the Psalms also give testimony to those times when we don't feel like God's presence is near or don't feel like we long for it or hunger for it or thirst for it. The Scriptures, the Psalms themselves, give testimony to the experience of feeling like God is MIA, and sometimes when we need it most. And probably one of the clearest examples of this is Psalm 88. And not only is it a clear example of those times when we feel like God is absent, but it's possibly one of the most depressing psalms in the entire Psalter. In the entire book of Psalms, Psalm 88 might take the cake on being the most depressive. See, a lot of psalms, there's a number of them that express grief. They're psalms of lament. There's a number of them that express disappointment or disillusionment or doubt even. But they often take a turn like in the middle or at the end of the psalm. They normally have some sort of declaration of praise or declaration of trust. And so they kind of like, they express like, oh God, where are you? But I will trust you, you know? And so they have like this redemptive point. Take Psalm 13, for example. It opens with this. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Like, how long, God? The psalmist is complaining about how long is it going to take. But it ends this way. At the end, it says, but I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. So it complains to God, but then it takes like a, it ends with, but I will praise you. Or Psalm 42, it has this declaration. Why, my soul, are you downcast? Why so disturbed within me? So it has the downcast part, but then it says, put your hope in God, for I will yet praise him, my Savior and my God. The psalmist expressed their emotional feeling of being downcast or wondering where God is at, why is he taking so long, but then they have that turn and they have a praise or a declaration of trust. Not Psalm 88. It is negative like all the way through. Psalm 88 ends this way. Check this out. This is the last verse in Psalm 88. You have taken from me friend and neighbor. Darkness is my closest friend. What? Like, where's the yet will I praise you? Like, where's that part? No, darkness is my closest friend. Like, this makes me think of the song from some of your guys' era, perhaps, the Simon and Garfunkel song, The Sound of Silence. If you don't know it, you've heard it as like the background music to some commercial or movie. This is the lyrics. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I have come to talk with you again. That is the most you will ever hear me sing, by the way. But this psalm makes me think of that. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Darkness is my closest friend. So we're going to look at Psalm 88 this morning. If you came in this morning in a good mood, buckle up. I'm about to ruin it. Because it's just going to be real depressing. So, if you have Bibles, Psalm 88. You can turn there if you have your own copy or their Bibles in the pew in front of you or devices, or you can just listen along if you're like, I don't even want to look at this, I don't even want to read it. You can listen along. That'll be fine too. Psalm 88. The best part is it's a song. In the title it says this, a song, a psalm of the sons of Korah. For the director of music. Maybe this is where Simon and Garfunkel got their inspiration, actually. According to the Mahalath Leonath, a maskil of Heman the Ezrahite. Basically, it's just a bunch of titles for the musical director and stuff to know. Lord, you are the God who saves me. Okay, that starts out, that's as good as it gets. All right, here we go. Day and night I cry out to you. May my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry. I am overwhelmed with troubles, and my life draws near to death. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I am like one without strength. I am set apart with the dead, like the slain who lie in the grave, whom you remember no more, who are cut off from your care. You have put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths. Your wrath lies heavily on me. You have overwhelmed me with all your waves. You have taken from me my closest friends and have made me repulsive to them. I am confined and cannot escape. My eyes are dim with grief. I call to you, Lord, every day. I spread out my hands to you. Do you show your wonders to the dead? Do their spirits rise up and praise you? Is your love declared in the grave, your faithfulness in destruction? Are your wonders known in the place of darkness, or your righteous deeds in the land of oblivion? How you doing? But I cry to you for help, Lord. In the morning, my prayer comes before you. Why, Lord, do you reject me and hide your face from me? From my youth, I have suffered and been close to death. I have borne your terrors and am in despair. Your wrath has swept over me. Your terrors have destroyed me. All day long they surround me like a flood. They have completely engulfed me. You have taken from me friend and neighbor. Darkness is my closest friend. Oh, that feels real good, doesn't it? When I read this psalm, there are parts of it that remind me of perhaps some of you who are in the later seasons of life. In those seasons of life when your limitations, your physical limitations, your health, your body, it's just you're ever aware of your immortality. When your health and your body start doing unpredictable things, when the doctors start uttering diagnoses that you can't pronounce, let alone spell, when you feel like so many people you know are dying, it's like the season of funerals. Because you see, the older you get, the more you start outliving everyone. Think of those for whom this is perhaps part of the season of life you're in. You joke about reading the obituaries, right? I read them every day to make sure my name's not in there. And it's kind of your way of masking the truth, though. The truth is you do read it, and you do recognize a lot of the names in there. Maybe they're not close friends or relatives, but someone you went to school with, and more you're just in this season of life. Or I think of people who are in long-term care, often completely isolated and sometimes even forgotten. But even those who aren't forgotten, even those who have really just amazing families who love them and visit them, like their families can only visit so much. They have limitations, they have lives, and they love them, and they're doing as best they can. But at the end of the day, people there sometimes still end up feeling isolated and alone. I feel like perhaps if that's a season of life that you resonate with, the psalmist captures it. You have taken from me my closest friends, and have made me repulsive to them. I'm confined and cannot escape. One time I went and did visitation at a long-term care facility, and I went to visit someone in the dementia wing, and I was trying to be polite as I was leaving. There was a lady standing by the door, and I held the door for her. I wasn't supposed to do that. I let her out. I learned my lesson. One of the people that worked there, one of the nurses scolded me. I was just trying to be a gentleman, open the door. She looked like she knew where she was going. That phrase, I am confined and cannot escape, made me think of that moment. That was a total rabbit trail. I did not plan to share that. The psalmist writes, I am confined and cannot escape. My eyes are dim with grief. I call to you, Lord, every day. I spread out my hands to you. Do you show your wonders to the dead? Do their spirits rise up and praise you? Is your love declared in the grave, your faithfulness in destruction? I feel perhaps if you're in that season of life, maybe the long-term care or your grieving friends, your eyes are dim with grief. It's something you're very familiar with. Or I think of those perhaps who've had chronic pain for most of their lives. Maybe they have an autoimmune disease or some sort of disability that has a degree of suffering and pain. Or there are sometimes people who, by no fault of their own, like no choice of their own, they have just been born into a dysfunctional reality, a dysfunctional family, and their life has just been plagued with trials and troubles since the beginning. Perhaps they resonate when the psalmist writes, from my youth I have suffered and been close to death. I have borne your terrors and am in despair. The psalm wrestles with the question, where is God when it hurts? Where is God when it feels like there is no God? Where is God when it just seems like our circumstances and situations are characterized by suffering? Because the reality is sometimes in life, God seems absent. His presence may seem elusive. Our circumstances sometimes feel like punishment. And grief clouds any hope of there being light at the end of the tunnel. And so, what do we do? What do we do when it feels like God is absent? So I'm not going to be able to answer most of those questions. I'm not going to be able to answer most of the why questions about particular things and why they happen. That's not my intent this morning. But I want to talk about how might we understand that experience of God being distant or absent? Because I think when we go through those seasons, when we go through chaos, our minds want to naturally try to find a way to bring order out of the chaos. So we try to understand, we try to have an explanation. And sometimes we build whole theologies around some explanations. And you say, well, I'm not a theologian. Listen, what I mean by this is what we believe about God. Sometimes we build ideas about God around certain reasons or explanations to just try to make sense of things that are sometimes not sensible. And I want to humbly say this because I could be wrong about my opinions here, but I think sometimes the theologies we build around our experiences, around our trials, sometimes they're harmful to people's souls. Like I think there are some ways of making sense of suffering, of making sense of where God is when it hurts. I think there are some ways of trying to make sense of that are not helpful. And so I don't want to this morning oversimplify. I believe our experiences and our souls are complex. And so I'm not going to offer simple answers to complex realities, but I do want to just share a few reflections that perhaps we can take into our stories if and when we walk through this experience of feeling like God is missing in action. Can we do that? All right. Sometimes our emotions are not the whole picture. Sometimes our emotions are not the whole picture. So I think a lot of times we reduce our emotions to being that part of our, if you've grown up in the church, perhaps, our fleshy selves, like that bad part of our humanity, that if I just weren't so emotional, if I just didn't have emotions, I would be holy. But I want to say, no, I don't think that is how we should go about it, because God created our emotions and Jesus experienced emotions. And our emotions might need to be redeemed, but I don't believe they need to be rejected. They are part of how God wired us, created us, designed us, and so they are part of what it means to be an authentic person created in the image of God. So our emotions might need to be redeemed. I don't believe they need to be rejected. And so the good news is not just that God is saving our souls, the immaterial part of ourselves. The good news is God is saving, redeeming all of who we are. And we are embodied souls. And Scripture is clear. Jesus did not spiritually resurrect from the dead. Jesus bodily resurrected from the dead. And Jesus is the first fruits, the foretaste, the prototype, the preview of our resurrection hope. So whatever new creation looks like, when God brings the story to its finale and then its new creation beginning, He is redeeming not just part of us, but all of us. And I believe that's important for us to hold. And so hear me when I say this. Our emotions are not invalid or unimportant, but they're also not ultimate. And so it is important. Our emotions are valid. They are part of how God wired us, but they usually don't tell the whole story. And so sometimes we have moments when we feel like God is absent, but sometimes we need to remember that how we feel in any given moment may not be telling the whole story. So sometimes our emotions are not the whole picture when we feel like God is absent. It's also important to recognize that our circumstances impact our experience of God. We can't compartmentalize our lives and divorce our real, actual lived experiences from how we are also relating, experiencing God. And so if you're going through trouble, if you're going through trial, if you're going through a difficult time, you can't set that aside and then try to relate and pray and worship God. That is shaping how you are relating to God. And hear me, I don't think that's a problem. The problem sometimes happens when our circumstances define God's character. When we allow our circumstances to be the lens through which we interpret God's character. And part of what will happen then is God's character fluctuates with our changing circumstances. But if we interpret our circumstances through the lens of God's character, we might find that God is faithful even when we go through difficult circumstances. But we don't need to pretend like our circumstances aren't part of our relationship with God. They are. What you are going through right now is impacting and influencing how you are relating to God right now. We just need to hold on to who God is in the midst of it. Another reality is we live in a broken world. We live in a broken world. And this is one of those points where I just want to be transparent and honest. There are a lot of theologians and a lot of pastors who will disagree with what I'm going to say, and I could be wrong. But it is my understanding and my belief that God's sovereignty is not deterministic. What I mean by that is God is sovereign over all things, but not all things submit to his will. It is my understanding of Scripture that there are things in reality that are in rebellion against God. That there seem to be spiritual beings and human beings who have a degree of moral free agency, and we can choose things that then have real actual consequences, and sometimes those real actual consequences are horrific. And I don't think we need to try to justify that and say, well, it's all part of God's perfect plan. No, it's in rebellion to God's plan, and it is evil, and we don't need to try to redeem evil by not calling it evil. I like Philip Yancey, how he writes about it in his book, Where is God When It Hurts? He says, maybe God isn't trying to tell us anything specific each time we hurt. Pain and suffering are part and parcel of our planet, and Christians are not exempt. I had a friend call me once, and they had a tragedy they had went through, and he had kind of had that theological upbringing that said everything that happens for a reason, and there's some sort of deeper meaning or deeper truth or lesson God must be trying to teach you. And he says, I can't find the deeper reason. I can't find the lesson. I can't see this. No matter how I turn it, I don't know what God's trying to teach me. Maybe God isn't trying to say anything specific. Maybe pain and suffering are part and parcel of our planet, and we're not exempt. Or he goes on, Philip Yancey writes, to judge God solely by the present world would be a tragic mistake. At one time, it may have been the best of all possible worlds, but surely it is not now. The Bible communicates no message with more certainty than God's displeasure with the state of creation and the state of humanity. Imagine this scenario. Vandals break into a museum displaying works from Picasso's Blue Period. Motivated by sheer destructiveness, they splash red paint all over the paintings and slash them with knives. It would be the height of unfairness to display these works, a mere sampling of Picasso's creative genius, and spoil at that as representative of the artist. He's saying it would be unfair to take paintings that had been vandalized and slashed with a knife, or even just a small sample of that artist, and say, this is the best depiction of the artist. He's saying in the same way, the same applies to God's creation. God has already hung a condemned sign above the earth and has promised judgment and restoration. That this world is spoiled by evil and suffering, that it still exists at all, is an example of God's mercy, not his cruelty. So he's saying to take our fallen world how it is now, vandalized by sin, and say this is a reflection of the artist, the creator, is not a fair understanding of the artist or the creator. This world has been vandalized. This world has been broken, there is sin, death, disease, decay that has intruded God's good world. And it is not from the artist. It was introduced by us. We live in a broken and fallen world. I do not believe we add to God's glory by trying to justify evil as somehow being a part of God's perfect plan. Evil will be absorbed and consumed by God's perfect plan. But I don't think we need to justify it as part of. He will vanquish evil. He will bring new creation. But evil, make no mistake, evil is a foreign invader in God's good world, an intruder, a villain, a thief, and God will ultimately overcome evil in all its forms. I I think sometimes we experience hardship, suffering, maybe even absence of God's presence because we are still on this side of new creation. And Jesus even said, in this world you will have suffering. But take heart, I have overcome the world. We are not exempt, and sometimes the brokenness of this world touches our lives. And I think answers that try to tell people, well, that brokenness is just part of God's plan for you. I think we should tread there carefully. First of all, I don't presume to have direct insight into all of God's plans. I'm careful not to do that. I believe God's plan is to redeem it, whatever it is, whatever tragedy. It's not outside of his grace to redeem and make new and heal and bring resurrection out of. But I don't think any part of evil, death, disease, or decay was ever intended for his creation. Like I said, there are a lot of theologians who disagree with me, and maybe you do as well. That's how I have come to understand. Another reason, perhaps, that we might experience the absence or a feeling of God's presence being elusive, it could be that our embodied souls might have a chemical imbalance. You are an embodied soul. You are a complex life form, and your physiological self, your chemical self, your spiritual self, your emotional self, all of who you are is interconnected in a mysterious and beautiful way. And so if there is one part of you that is not healthy, it will affect the other parts of you. Now, I need to hesitate to go here because my diet is terrible, and I'm just going to own it. I do not eat well. But there is so much research that how we eat affects our chemical, hormonal, which affects our emotions. It can affect our immune system. Like, there's so many things. We are sometimes impacted by so many other things. And so as an embodied soul, it could be that there's a chemical imbalance within your physical being. And if that is true, and it manifests as depression or anxiety, that is going to affect everything about your lived experience, including your relationship with God. And perhaps if that is true, prayer and spiritual disciplines and therapy and rest and exercise and a healthy diet and medication and community and friends and people love you. Perhaps all of those things are part of how God could bring wholeness in your life, and it's okay to pursue them. I think what happens sometimes is we pick one of them as the answer. Like if you just cleaned your diet up, it would solve everything. Or if you just prayed about it more and you read more scripture, it would fix everything. Or no, medication is the answer. Maybe we're embodied souls, and a multifaceted healing way to pursue healing is okay. Maybe, yes, rest. Yes, pray. Yes, read scripture. Yes, have good, encouraging Christian friends. Yes, manage what you dwell on in your mind. And yes, maybe, medication. Maybe don't treat one of those things like the cure-all. Maybe don't treat like medicating everything will fix it, or like prayer, it is a quick fix. Like this formula that if I pray the right words with the right scriptures in the right order, like God will fix it all. Maybe it's complicated, and maybe sometimes you feel downcast like the psalmist because there's stuff going on in your personhood and in your being, and maybe it's complicated. And maybe pursuing healing and wholeness in a multifaceted way isn't a lack of faith, maybe it's wisdom. My wife has a t-shirt that says, it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist. It's okay. So maybe sometimes you need medication. Or maybe sometimes you need a nap because you're exhausted and your emotions are just frayed. And that's affecting how you experience your day-to-day, including your walk with God. Another thing that could be happening is sometimes God is quiet, but not absent. Sometimes God is quiet, but not absent. And I don't always know or understand why God is silent sometimes, but I know in my own life, I have misinterpreted his silence as absence. A couple weeks ago, Evelyn decided, which if you get to know my daughter, you will know once she's decided something, that is the way it will be. she decided she was ready to learn to ride a bike without training wheels. So, okay, let's learn to ride a bike without training wheels. So we got her brother's bike because it didn't have training wheels on it, and we started out, and I started doing the thing where I hold the back of the seat to make sure it stays balanced as she tries to pedal and pick up momentum. And early on in the process, when she felt like maybe I was letting go, she would experience a little bit of nervousness and sense that she wasn't as balanced and would say, don't let go, don't let go. But eventually, I would start letting go, and once she had momentum, and she would go 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, and then all of a sudden we started making goals, like let's go to that stop sign at the end of our road. Let's go to that driveway, and she started doing it, and as we would go, I would let go. But I was running beside her still. That way if she fell, I caught her so she wouldn't bust her knees up too badly. And the amazing thing is, as she did it, as she accomplished her goals, there was the sense of, I did it, I'm doing it. There was growth and development there. And within like 2 days, she was not only just riding from our driveway to the end to the stop sign, but she's able to get on the bike by herself and get started. That's a part of the learning process too, is getting started with pedaling. And like by day 2, she is able to ride a bike. You would think she's been riding it all year. Sometimes I think that sense of God speaking to us or his presence being near is sort of like holding the bike. And sometimes it feels like God is quiet or like he's let go, but he's still there. He's still beside us. He's silent or let go of the seat, but he's not absent. And I want to believe, I can't speak for God, but I want to believe that when that is the case, it is for our development and our growth. Whatever the reason might be, I believe he is a good father, and when he lets go of the seat or he seems silent, it is for our growth and our development. And he might be quiet, but he's not absent. Lastly, sometimes we have created the distance we feel. Sometimes we've drifted. Maybe we've not been intentionally rebellious. It's just life is busy. There's a lot of transition. It's back to school time right now for us. And like maybe things are just, and time with God, time being intentional to pursue God in scripture or prayer or journaling or just going for walks, whatever it is, it's just taken the back burner. And now before you know it, it's been days or even weeks since you've actually intentionally pursued God's presence. And you've not rebelled, but you've just drifted. And the distance that is between you and God perhaps has been in part because you've created the distance. You've drifted. Or sometimes, maybe it's not a drift, but it is a deliberate rebellion. Sometimes we do choose sin instead of God. Sometimes, maybe for a season, we keep pursuing sin and not God. And we're living in what we say sometimes, unrepented sin, unaddressed. And I will say this distance that you've created, psychologically, physically, God. Sometimes any one of these